Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Oh, Meteoro. Welcome, everyone. This is Jerry Tello with the Healing Generations podcast, and want to welcome you today to another version of us exploring and talking and sharing and healing. And our goal here, our really focus here, is how do we bring, the generations of knowledge and wisdom and bendiciones and blessings and everything that our ancestors have provided and filled us up with for years, to how do we bring that to light? But also, how do we heal those generations? And especially right now where, it's a tough time, a lot of things going on in the world, and we're getting challenged in many ways. What is it that we need in order to be able to continue to ground ourselves, refocus, fulfill our sacred purpose, but also advocate in that good way? So it's a really, really important time. And with that, I want to acknowledge the Creator and all of our ancestors, and acknowledge all of you and the people that you represent. But acknowledge where right now I'm sitting on Tangva Gabrielino land, so the native people there, want to just acknowledge them in that way. And you can think about where you're at. What's the community, the barrio that you're in, the people that you're there. What are the blessings they bring, and what are the struggles that they're having? I want to bring all that into focus. Your family, your love-related family, blood-related family, all those friends that support you, and all those people in need. And finally, let's take just a little deep breath here for ourselves and for the moment, and give gratitude. As my grandma would say, dando gracias, for another breath, another day of life that way, and I'm really grateful and happy to be here today. We have the privilege really of having on someone that's very significant, actually a good friend of myself and Maestra Susie. We become good friends over the years and gotten to know her and Dan and really come to respect her just as a wonderful person, a person that's very, conscious about things in the world, but also conscious about culture and about sharing and about how we're seen. But on the other end, she's a really prominent writer, producer, director, has been recognized for her work throughout the years. Many of you have seen Selena. Well, she's part of that. Mi Familia, many, many other things that she's produced and been a part of and been really emphasizing, pushing others to do. But right now there's a prominent movie called Say a Little Prayer, beautiful movie that made me laugh, made me cry, made me just feel good, just about being a Chicano from San Antonio, So who I'm introducing is Nancy De Los Santos. And Nancy, I want to welcome you and invite you to welcome the folks.
Gracias. Thank you so much. Wait a minute. You are a Chicano from San Antonio?
That's right. My dad's family, all from San Antonio, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know. I love San Antonio. It's my second home. I just love that place so much. Born and raised in Chicago. I'm a Chicana from Chicago. And I would like to welcome all of my friends and family who are tuning in from all over the country. I'm so blessed to have friends from the East Coast, the Midwest, to Florida, Colorado, Texas, California, Washington, Arizona, Tucson. I'm just so blessed that this journey has opened up the world to me. And I have friends, amigas and amigos in so many parts of this great country of ours. And I welcome them all here today. I know that they have heard about this movie, Say a Little Prayer, because I've been talking about it for at least 10 years. And I'm just really grateful to be here to share with your audience and new friends that I hope I will make through this podcast.
Well, it's significant that movie's called Say a Little Prayer, because, I've learned from my elders that we are all prayers fulfilled. And you are one of those prayers. That's really fulfilling the dreams of your people and your ancestors and people that have struggled to allow you the opportunity to be able to do what you do. So I wonder if you could just begin by just sharing a little bit about, who you are, where you came from. You said Chicago, but who are your parents and your people? And tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey.
I think that this journey here on planet Earth, for me, starts with my two abuelitas, both on the De Los Santos side and my mother's side, which is the Gallegos family. My father's side, the De Los Santos side, my abuelita was Angelita De Los Santos. I love the name, and such a good, strong entrepreneur. She was not an angel, but she was in Texas and probably a bootlegger and party place, and people would go to their house to drink whatever they were making and dance and sing and have a good time. And we really have that in our family. We love to get together and dance. Even my 95-year-old mother would get up there and dance when we were having house parties. That's a big part of that family. And while I love Angelita De Los Santos, I think my heart belongs to my abuelita Chulita, Soledad Gallegos. She truly was just such a remarkable force of nature, and so kind and loving to her grandchildren, as my mother would always tell me, that she was not that way to her own children. Yes. But we got the love of an incredible woman who was born in Zacatecas, a town called Sombrereta, I believe it's pronounced Zacatecas, and who moved with her family to Durango. They worked in the silver mines for such a long time. And during the Mexican Revolution, as so many of our stories began, left, just said, we're going to get out of here. And how they did it, Jerry, I don't know. I wish I knew how they made that journey. It was her mother, Dominga, my grandmother, Soledad, who at that point was 15 years old and already had a child. And somehow they made the trek across Mexico. We never heard those stories. We just know that they did leave and wound up in this little town in Texas called Eastland. It's in the Panhandle. That is where they settled, and that is where they worked and worked in the cotton fields and just raised her family. Met a Polish immigrant from Nova Scotia, Canada. How the heck does that happen? I don't know. But he somehow came down from Canada and was working in Texas. He was a stone masonry person, and they were building a dam, and he was in charge of the dam. And then, as in now, all the workers were Mexicanos. So my grandmother, I believe, would cook for them, and she met him, he met her. They fell in love, even though neither one of them spoke the language proficiently. They had 6 beautiful kids, one of them being children, and one of them being my mother, Micaela. And during the time when, unfortunately, the grandfather, Felix Arkaminski, fell into alcoholism and died of cirrhosis of the liver. And grandma had to move with her children. And she had previously been to Chicago, which still amazes me, from Texas, working along with the railroad workers who transported the cattle from Texas to the stockyards of Chicago. And she had gone along. They were just like the Adelitas. They went along with these workers to cook for them. So she knew of Chicago. And then after her husband passed away, she moved her whole family up to Chicago. And this was right there in the early 1940s. So that's where my mother was raised. She got there when she was probably about 14, 15 years old. And they really put down roots. And we were all Chicanos in Chicago, or Tejanos in Chicago.
Yeah.
And that's right. That was our upbringing. And Grandma, Abuelita Chulita, always worked. She lived with us. And I can remember those early mornings, 3 o'clock, she waking up to go to work in a bakery. And they had to be there at 5 o'clock, I guess, or 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. She would somehow take the bus to go to work and be back by the afternoon with bags full of the stuff that they didn't sell, which are fried pies. Did you ever see them like empanadas, except they're frosted? Yeah. So that's what we lived on as kids, cherry and strawberry and all kinds of good things. I remember that about her, and I remember her tortillas at your hermano. Just the most delicious. No one could ever match that. And I also remember jumping ahead when I was graduating high school. And Grandma was saying to me that she didn't want me to work in the factory as she did.
Mm.
She said she wanted me to be a secretary because she saw the secretaries in the office at the factory always wearing pretty dresses. And that's what she wanted for me. And one of the most beautiful gifts she gave me was a very small, portable, blue Royal manual typewriter. I don't know where that is. I wish I would have kept it somewhere, but I used it all through high school, to type my papers and learned how to type, learned how to be a great typist, as I still am. And I'm very grateful for that because we sure do need to know how to touch type now in today's world. Yeah. And I do. And it's all thankful to Grandma. Now, I was a secretary and I was a damn good secretary, but I'm glad that my road changed and I used the talents of knowing how to touch type 90 minutes per word to become a writer and producer instead, even though I really enjoyed being a secretary because secretaries truly are the heart of any organization. They really run the place. That was also fun. So I pretty much owe it all to Soledad Gallegos. Yeah.
So what got you to this transition? Because you're a secretary, and then how did you get to, did you go on to school, continue with school? What did you do that got you into thinking about being a writer, a producer, being, on this different road of creation?
Well, quite interestingly, it was while I was a secretary, I graduated from a commercial high school in Chicago called Jones Commercial, and it was a secretarial high school. They taught you how to be a secretary, and many of the Latinas and Black girls in my neighborhood were funneled into that school. You weren't told that college was even a possibility. I was always a good student. I was always on the honor roll. I usually had straight A's. And it came easy to me because I love to read. And I think reading is one of those, it opens the world to you. So even though I was a good student, no one ever said college. So graduated from Jones Commercial with my 90 words a minute. And as Jones Commercial is on the edge of downtown Chicago, and immediately started working in downtown Chicago at different organizations, different businesses. And one of the employers that I had was this Northwestern Hospital, one of the best hospitals in the city, in the country, really. And I worked there in the transportation department as the secretary. And transportation department, they're the ones you would call, and I would answer the phone and say, yes, may I help you? We have a patient in room 520 that needs to go to x-ray. We have a patient in x-ray that needs to go to surgery. We have and I would organize our 5 to 10 transporters and say, go here, go there. It was a great job. I really enjoyed it because I was in charge. So it was a great job. But one of our transporters there was a young man from Bogota, Colombia. Malquiades was his name. I love that name. It reminds me of 100 Years of Solitude. That was his name. And we just got to talking one day, and he asked me why I didn't go to college, why I was in college. I said, I don't know. No one ever told me about it. And he said, well, my family in Bogota scrimped and saved to send me here to go to college. And you're already here. You should think of going to college. And he was just being a good person, or God sent him, who knows. But I took his advice and I started to take night classes at then was called Chicago Junior College, something like that. And I really liked it. I said, this is interesting. And of course, it was more challenging than any high school I had been to because at Jones Commercial, we learned typing. And that was typing and grooming. We learned how to look nice and how to walk and how to talk, how to answer the phone. As I said, we learned how to type proposals, but not write proposals. And he encouraged me, and I took some classes, and I said, I really do like this. And while I was there, I learned more about different schools in Chicago. And there was one in particular, this Northeastern University, that was welcoming Latino students to come to their school, and they would help you. And I went and met with the counselor and said, maybe I want to try this. And they said, yes, you should. So I just turned my life around and started to go to school full time and work at the hospital 3 to 12, the graveyard shift, as a transporter, where I could do my work because it was quieter at night. But unfortunately, at night was also when some of the deaths would happen. And so the calls that I would get as the nighttime transporter would be go to room 603 and take the deceased person to the morgue. So I did that for a couple of years, but it was really a great job because it was quiet and I was able to do my homework and then move from the junior college after meeting some amazing Latinos at that school to encourage me to keep going. And I applied to the University of Texas at Austin to become a full-time student at a 4-year university. And during that process, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, knowing that I really did have a love of writing, I was encouraged to join the then Chicano student newspaper that was called Contra la Pared, Up Against the Wall. We thought we were revolutionaries, and we were. We were. And I wrote for that, and I also took photographs. And at that time, you had to go to the dark room, as you remember, to develop the photographs, which is still very magical to me. I'm sorry people don't have that experience anymore. And during that time, I'm totally dating myself, but that's when video came into our lives. The big video that you carried on your shoulder with the really heavy camera.
Big camcorder.
Camcorder. But I just fell in love with that. And I started to do video journalism just for our many dances, meetings, protests that we would do as students. And that's really what moved me into that area, thinking more photojournalism. I thought that the best job I could have at that time would be with National Geographic. That's what I was aiming for. But life took a couple of different turns.
Wow. What a journey. And, and it's interesting how, as you mentioned, life kind of guides you a certain place. I'm sure, your grandma, and what a wonderful blessing that your grandma saw something in you.
Yeah.
That she saw something in you. She wanted you to be more.
Yes.
And she gave you that tool, that typewriter, symbolically saying that you are a writer, So it's very interesting to me how even our abuelitas who have never been exposed to all these other professions, somehow how in their spirit see something in us, and put you on that path, and then it's up to you, to. So how is it then that you got to consider writing and producing and directing? I mean, I'm sure there's a long journey in there, and especially for Latinos in this field, it's still very difficult. I mean, what were the challenges, and what got you through to be able to to do what you do?
Well, I believe that it all happens in school. For me, school, college, university just opened up the world to me because my parents they're a wonderful working class family, but they would have been very happy for me to be a secretary and to get married and stay in the neighborhood. And, and that would have been a good life. My cousins and my sister have that life. And sometimes I'm jealous of them, to tell you the truth, because it's such a nice, peaceful life that they have. Yeah. But, my fire was ignited in a different way. So while I was at Northeastern, we did an independent study, myself and another student named Jose Gaspar, who now is a journalist up in Bakersfield. And we drove across country to attend Chicano studies here in Los Angeles at Northridge, which then was the Mecca for Chicano studies with Rudy Acuna, our leader. And with Raul Ruiz, the photographer who also took those famous photos of Whittier Boulevard when Ruben Salazar was assassinated. And that, of course, we were there. We took the classes. We met the students. We saw that the students here in California at that time were real rabble-rousers, man. They just were all out there in your face, protests every weekend for whatever, and all important things for Chicano studies, for the farm workers, for bilingual education. And Jose and I went along with them. And I think that really just instilled in me the importance of what we had to do what we all had to do to contribute to changing this somehow. And then taking that experience and going to the University of Texas, where I studied radio, television, and film. That's where I have my degree from. Again, I just saw that the inherent kind of racism that exists. And that's when I discovered institutional racism, where they go, well, that's not really a good idea for a story. Do you really want to do that story? And someone had even asked me at some point, do you really want to be a director? We think that you'd be a better producer. I don't know if they were right or wrong, but it's not right for anybody to tell you which route to take. You have to find your own route. And so that whole school experience was super important to me. And I think that really shaped the mission. And that's what I tell younger people or new people coming into this business. It's more than a career. It's a mission. A mission, my personal mission is always to work on projects that elevate a realistic image of Latinos and Latinas in everything that I do at every medium, whatever it is. Movies, TV, podcasts, writing, whatever you do. And remember, I said realistic. I'm not saying positive, because if you just say positive, we're all so good and wonderful, no one's going to believe you. Realistic. We are three-dimensional characters, all of us. And I learned this from Gregory Nava, working with him on Mi Familia. If you remember that wonderful storyline that Isai Morales played, the son who comes and gets involved with selling drugs and gets in trouble. And I was like, do you really want to say that, though? And Greg said, yes, this is our community. This is what happens when there's no opportunities around. People turn to what's available to them to survive. That's what that movie is about.
Yeah.
He instilled in me that thought that you can be a bad guy character, but with a reason that you're a bad guy, not just you're born bad, because none of us are born bad. So all of those experiences, but I think the idea of having a mission in life and what you want to do with your talents is super important.
Yeah. What I remember in growing up is the inability to see myself and to see us and to see our families, And, speaking of that movie, there was a scene in which Isai and his dad get into this fight, right? And it was very real, but it was also very real for me, because I remember seeing those things in my house and other people, and it was like, whoa, but it gave me a different insight, because the movie had built up to describe Isai's, his life, but also the father's position of respect me, and you can't disrespect. So it really brought to life something. And I remember me and my friends talking about that.
Yeah.
Says, Dad, you see what happened, man? And I say, yeah. Well, and it opened up a whole discussion among us about our relationships with our fathers.
Lárgate aquí. I'll never forget that. Oh, it was an amazing, chilling scene, for a father to throw his son out of the house.
Yeah.
But it happens.
It happens, but it's not until you see your reflection on the screen, that it can also open up a process for you to begin to talk about things and to analyze things and to even heal a little bit, but also to have a different perspective of your dad or your brother, because my brother went through that as well, And I think it's writers and filmmakers like you that are able to put these reflections before us that allow us, first of all, to be acknowledged, that we are real, that our experiences are valuable, and that there's a deeper insight into that. I also know, Nancy, that the work that you do and what you've been able to accomplish has not been easy, because you talked about racism and you talked about systemic racism, and we live in a society that even in the film industry and in all of that, there's some, and especially as a mujer, as a woman, can you talk about those challenges and what got you through those challenges? Because I'm sure there's times in which you're saying, man, is this worth it?
Yeah. It is worth it, number one. It's absolutely worth it, even to whatever contribution I think any of us can make to this wide range of images that are out there. We have to do it. because there's a reason for that. I'll answer that question. But there's a documentary that I wrote and produced with director Alberto Dominguez, the late Alberto Dominguez, and with my co-producer and writer, Susan Racho. And it's called The Bronze Screen. Gente de Bronce, the Bronze Screen, 100 years of the Latino image in Hollywood cinema. It's still somewhere on YouTube, I think, right now, because it's probably 20 years old. But I also taught a class about that. And one of the questions that I asked at that class, so what would you prefer? To be seen on screen negatively or not to be seen at all? And big, heavy question there. And pretty much 95% of the time it was, I'd rather be seen badly than not at all. We need to be seen. And we need to be seen in realistic ways. It was so important that we, as Latino writers, we have to make these sacrifices, and we have to get beaten down, and we have to rise up again, and we have to be sad, and we have to cry. And then we have to rejoice and support each other when there is a success. And I think it's only through this community that I have of other writers and other women and other Latinos from all across the country, pretty much not just in my world, but in every world, because in every world, even in the corporate world, they experience it. They get the same thing. They get the same kind of treatments that, oh, you're not ready for that promotion or whatever it is. Unfortunately, I think. So it is through this network and tapestry of good people surrounding you that I've been able to continue. I know we'll talk about Say a Little Prayer a little bit more later, but it's only because of Christina Nava and Patrick Perez Vidaude that we were able to make this movie together. You know, I couldn't do it on my own. It took somebody else to stand next to me and say, yeah, let's do this. We're going to do this together. So it is definitely a collaborative effort to create anything, except if you're going to write something by yourself. But if you write it by yourself, it's just on paper. It doesn't really matter unless somebody's going to read it and publish it. And that's a whole other thing, publishing. But so it is the tapestry that I think keeps me going. The network, the good network of people. Whenever I have any kind of situation that I need advice on, I know who to go to, either personally or the groups. I'm a part of the Latino Writers Committee at the Writers Guild. I'm a part of La Lista Latinas. It's Latinas who have worked in television, and we share our information and our experiences. And we, you know, it's under a cone of silence, so we can talk about our experiences as we need them. That's really helpful. I'm a part of another cohort of multicultural women working in media, and we lean on each other for advice and direction from them, and just personal friends, you know, that this is what we do. We help each other out and we hold each other up when needed.
You know, it reminds me, living in the barrio there, my dad, you know, sometimes he'd make some carne asada. And, you know, I thought he was making it all for us. He wasn't making it all for us. He had these little paquetes with aluminum foil, and he'd pack them up, and then he'd get in his truck, and then and we only had a little bit. He took it to everybody else. And I didn't understand what my dad was doing until we had a plumbing problem. And he called his compadre, right? The one that he took the carne asada, and he didn't say, come fix my plumbing. He says, oh yeah, I got a problem with my plumbing. What should I do? And about 15 minutes later, here comes the compadre fixing the plumbing, right? Yeah. And what I didn't realize is what my dad was doing is he was building this extended kinship network, this familia of helpers, of supporters, of people that could support him and the family, you know. And that's such a significant part of who we are. And I think, you know, that's what gets us through, is we need other people. We need other people professionally, personally, family-wise, you know. And we even need to know who to party with, because some people are good to party with, you know. But we need all of that in order for us to really make it, you know. And I know we struggle in this world, and especially right now, there's a lot of really heavy things that are going on with our people, you know. And I just want to acknowledge, you know, all the people in our community, and especially, you know, I mean, everybody's with susto, with fear, you know. Right. So I think that as much as we can lift up, you know, the beauty, the significance, the truth about what's going on, and also the other elements what's going on, then I think, it creates a sense of ánimo, a sense of, of perseverance, of ganas that we can continue through this. And I think that, when we talk about your latest project, Say a Little Prayer, to me, it was part of that. It was that joy. It was that, and you saw some really strong Latinas, and I just want to say that the women, our women have always been the center of our advancement in all of our revolutions.
That's right.
And when we struggled, the mujeres were always there. My brother, when he got locked up, my mom would go see him. It's the mujer that has always been the center and the ones that's persevered, And this movie really centers around some mujeres. So I wonder if you could tell us about this film and a little bit of the background of you making it and why you made it and
Okay, so it starts with Abuelita Chulita all over again. Because while I was in Chicago after all those journeys here and there, and I went back to Chicago because I missed my family and I wanted to go back. I had been gone like 5 years. And I decided to volunteer at the public television station. And I wrote a letter, and then they said, sure, come on down, you could volunteer. And while I was there, I had just gotten my degree in maybe BS, it's called a Bachelor of Science. BS, it's weird, isn't it? It's a BS degree, Bachelor of Science. And they saw that on my resume, and they said, hey, we have this opening for someone to work on this television show. It was then called Sneak Previews with these wonderful film critics, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. And it took a little bit of thought for me because I was going to get my PhD in communications and be Dr. De Los Santos. But I took the job, and I'm glad that I did. And it was a wonderful job. And I bought a new car, and I got an apartment right down the street from my parents, but I had some money. And I actually convinced my parents, let's go in together and buy this building. This building's for sale that I'm living in. It'd be great. Let's buy it, which we did. So I was living high, I thought. But to Abuelita Chulita, I was not married. I was 30 years old. And she was very concerned about that. And one day she gave me this little piece of paper and she said, this is a prayer to San Antonio. And I said, but the saint that you pray to when you lose something, he's the patron saint of all things lost. And I said, but Grandma, I haven't lost anything. Why am I praying to him? And she said, your husband is lost, mija. He's lost. Say this prayer and San Antonio will help you find him. That's exactly how it started. So I put that prayer in my back pocket because I was not even close to thinking I wanted to get married. And it took 20 years later, then I'd say like 15 years later, I'm in California and I wanted to write something because here I am in Los Angeles, seeing that there just was not enough. There was Eddie Olmos, there was Greg Nava, there was Moctezuma Esparza, but there wasn't enough and everybody was struggling. And I wanted to contribute something. I wanted to do something with women as much, I love everything, but it was American Me and, it was a lot of guy stories. I wanted a woman story. And so I took out that prayer and wrote it as a basis of a romantic comedy. And that's really how it started. And it was first presented on stage as HBO new writer. Tony Blana directed it. And it was Tony Blana, the actor, who encouraged me. He said, this should be a feature. And I said, you're absolutely right. So I wrote it as a feature. And I set it in Chicago, actually, because I wanted to let people know of the Latino community in Chicago, because people were still really surprised when they met me. You're from Chicago? And I go, yeah, there's a lot of us there, too. And so I wanted that to be, but then things took a turn. And one of the freelance jobs I had was in San Antonio. And while I was interviewing someone for this great show that we were writing on the tricentennial of the city, they asked me what else I was doing, and I said, oh, this romantic comedy. And she said, you mean our San Antonio? And it just kind of, I'm supposed to be doing the movie here. And it was absolutely the right way to go, to do the movie about San Antonio in San Antonio. And I loved making it a Tejano movie. I love that. Texas just is so full of just vigor and Latinos and tacos and the best food and the music, and I love the dancing. So we were just very fortunate But it took a long time. I got turned down a lot. We pitched it to different studios and different people who you would think were allies, who turned out no, they would just not see it as a movie. And it was really, it hurt a lot. And we tried, and I'm saying we, different, Moctezuma tried with me, other producers tried with me, we just couldn't break through. And then finally, I just said to myself, I cannot leave this earth without doing this movie. And I bought a iPhone 13. They were having these commercials about make your movie with your iPhone. And I said, I'm going to do it. At least I'd have that. I'll put it on YouTube. And once you step off that precipice, once you step off the cliff and just say, I'm going to fly, I don't care. I'm going to fly. People come under your wing and lift you up. And that's what happened. Wow. That's when I met Christina Nava. And she just listened to me telling the story of how I felt this was so important for people to see Latinas as anyone else falling in love with the wrong person. And the wonderful tradition of the prayer and the abuelitas and the tias and the primas. And she said, yeah, I'll do this with you. And then we brought in Patrick as our director, Patrick Perez Vidaudi. And it just was a miracle in front of us. Honestly, the whole production was blessed with these amazing actors because we put the iPhone away and said, okay, we're going to make a real movie here. And we were very fortunate that we went out into our community and found investors. And of our 12 investors, 10 are Latinos. And of those 10, 7 are Latinas who said yes. These are women that are not multimillionaires, but that have companies and enough of an income that they're able to risk some funds for a movie. And they all did it because they were tired of us not being presented on screen. And when we were, it was a negative representation.
Yes.
And they just said, we want to change that. And I'm so proud of them. And I will always be thankful to every single one of our investors, just beautiful people who said yes. And that's how we got the movie done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me just acknowledge you and all those that contributed, all those that had faith and really chose to lift up our people and lift up our stories and lift up our prayers, because I think that unless we come together that way and really advocate, but also put our money as an investment, then our stories are not going to be told, and our investment is not going to be held. And but it takes someone with that dream, or maybe an abuelita like your abuelita with a prayer to get this dream fulfilled that way. And if for the listeners that are listening, if you haven't seen the movie, please
do.
Please see it. Say a little prayer. It's really a very positive, funny, enjoyable movie, and for me it was just wonderful to see a grandma and abuelita acknowledged, to see the inspirations and the dreams of our grandmas acknowledged, and then to see a group of mujeres that could support each other, laugh, have a good time, and the real life. The real life that we struggle with just on screen. I
have to just give kudos to our amazing cast. And Vanessa Vasquez, who is at the Hana, playing at the Hana. Oh my God, what a concept. Vivian Lomali, who is Cuban and Puerto Rican. Jackie Cruz, Dominicana. And then you go to Luis Fonse, Puerto Riqueño, to the bone, loved him. The character was a Mexicano. But, when we got Luis Fonse, I said, he is Puerto Rican because he can play Puerto Rican really well.
Right.
That was just the best, And, the rest of it, Alma Martinez, who just is so wonderful as the partner in a same-sex partnership. When was the last time you've seen that?
That's
on the screen? That's right. I love that about them. And she did so well at that. And I have to just throw it out there because I'm so proud of Tatanka Means in our movie. Native American actor, just so wonderful that he said yes to us. And when he was leaving the set, he was leaving super early in the morning to catch his flight out. And I heard him because we were staying at a small hotel. And I woke up and I went out and I said, I just want to thank you, for joining us. And he, said to me, thank you for inviting me to be on your film, because we never get chosen to be in a romantic comedy. If it doesn't have a bow and arrow, they don't call us. So sad. Because he brought such wonderful spirit to our set for the 4 days that he was with us. And he's a great actor. All of them have been, it's just such a great cast. And I really give them all kudos. I'm sorry I cry. I just get so emotional.
No. It's part of who we are. And it's part of our blessing. And it's part of the joy.
It is. It's joy.
And at the same time, it's part of acknowledging what we need more of. We need more of this representation of who we are.
Yes.
And the younger people that are thinking about this have an example, have a role model,
right?
Have an ejemplo like you to say que sí se puede, that we can do it that way, So I'm wondering if as you reflect on all of this, what kind of advice, what kind of counsel would you give younger people, not necessarily just moving into the film and director, but as you as a mujer, as a Latina, living this life and having I'm sure a lot of struggles and pushback on you trying to fulfill your purpose. What kind of advice would you give younger people as they're going on this road to want to fulfill their own purpose in life? What would you tell them?
Well, I think whatever your purpose is, what it is. It's in your heart. I think one very wonderful person told me that once when I was asking him for advice, he said, you know what to do. I won't mention any names. You know what to do, Nancy. And it was like, oh, yeah, I do know what to do. But we know what we're supposed to do. It is ingrained in our heart, in our mind. And I don't want this to be, it's hard to say this advice and make it sound negative, but regret is not anything you want to have in your life ever. Because an opportunity to hug someone or tell someone something or be there for someone goes away. And then you have to live with that and think, what if I would have? And that's the same with our dreams and our aspirations. The big part of me, and I remember a conversation with my dad when I told him I was leaving Chicago to move to Los Angeles, leaving what was then a very well-paying job as an executive producer on a television program, and telling him I was leaving to go to Los Angeles and live as a pobre on somebody's couch because I wanted to do movies. And he was like, oh, Nancy, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to leave? All your friends, your family, we're all here. And I just said, Daddy, I cannot be 80 years old and turn around and say, what would have happened if I would have gone? I can't live like that. And he understood. He gave me my blessing. And because it was a mechanic, he checked my oil and the air in the tires and set me on my way. So don't have a regret. If it's really in you to do something, do it. And you will do it. And there will be people who, you walk off that cliff, I promise there will be people who will lift you up under your wings, who will say, okay, you will get yeses, one right after the other. And pray, because I think prayer has become, my go-to for so much, just for peace, for advice, for direction. What should I really do? And I think we all know in our hearts what we should really do. Jerry, just yesterday, someone came over, wanted me to meet their niece who just graduated and had written a small film and blah, 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 and was moving from Missouri to Los Angeles. And of course, I encouraged her. Absolutely. And I said, it'll be hard. It'll be challenging, but it'll be wonderful for you. Absolutely. And you will find, and this is my other piece of advice, your tribe. You will find the community that will support you when you are doing what your heart's desire is for you to do. They will appear. They will come into your life. And a life of no regrets or fewer regrets than you would have, I think, is really important.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And, and following that dream and following that path and following your heart is really important. Finding the people around you that can support you and someone that can check your oil and check your tires is important too.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The fundamental things that keep us going too. But, Nancy, I just want to acknowledge and thank you for all that you've done, for who you are, and, for just being the good person that you are, for being a person with a good heart and a good spirit and someone that is willing to, to reach out and support others as well. Because you are, one of the elders that has in that good way. You are that.
I'm an elder.
You are that abuelita, with that prayer
Yeah.
that is praying for that next generation to do better and to do more. And I really appreciate you that way, and encourage all those that are listening to, pursue your heart, pursue your dreams in a good way.
I mean, Jerry, look, this one little movie, we have Edward James Olmos as our executive producer. Somebody who we all have so much respect for. He said yes to me. People will say yes when they know that you are, especially in our community, we want to support each other. We want to say, yes, you can do it. And if we can help anyone do it, assist in any way, however he's investing or just buying the crew lunch or breakfast or whatever, there's so many ways to help. And it's just really important to have that circle of friends and community and family. My family is just so wonderful. My wonderful husband, Dan, who you met many times, really supportive. He volunteered, I say that in air quotes, to come down as our COVID person to check everybody for the 2 months that we were on location. He didn't volunteer. I said, you're coming down with me to San Antonio. And he did. But that's what I mean. People want to see us rise as a community. They want to. And I have never believed that we are in competition. No, we are a huge community that knows that when one of us rises, we all rise. And I will always believe that, always.
Well, thank you, Nancy, so much for being willing to share today. And I want to just, to our listeners, if you haven't seen the film, check it out and check out the other films and, follow Nancy on all of her links and everything. But I just want to say to you, just to remind you, that all of us were sent here with a sacred purpose in mind. Follow that dream, listen to your heart, really listen to your grandma's prayers and say those prayers for others.
Yes.
Support others in our community in that way, so that they can fulfill their dreams. And, and together, interconnectedly, we can do wonderful, beautiful things. Continue to listen to this podcast, share it with others, and share with us other ideas of what you have. May you have a wonderful, beautiful day, and we'll finish this by saying a little prayer for you. Thank you all very much. Y Dios te bendiga.
Amen.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.